We have more people in the chamber than we normally do, which is great. Thank you to the staff who are able to identify what chairs to sit in, what chairs not to sit in, to make sure that we maintain social distancing. We ask that everyone follow along with the protocols. Also, we ask that masks stay on at all times. As the chair, it's my job to maintain decorum, and I really don't want to have to talk to people about masks or interrupt the meeting at all. So please just follow the best practices so we can keep everyone safe. I don't know where my pen is. Johnson, you take my pen? Okay, no, here we go. Let's use this one. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. For the invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll ask everyone to stand if they are willing and able, and we will recognize Pastor Debbie Garrett, who will be joining us virtually from the Open Door Homeless Rescue Center. Pastor?
Yes. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for our health and our strength, and for watching over us last night, allowing us to get up fully clothed and in our right minds. Father, we lift up the city of Wichita, and we praise you for your divine healing has come. We praise you for the percentages of new deaths are 0%. Father, we thank you. Today, we lift up to you our leaders, Mayor Brandon Whipple and the city council leaders. We pray that our hearts are right before you, dear God. Father, we pray that they work together, our leaders work together in unity and with integrity as they serve our communities. Bless them and protect them from all evil. Father, place a hedge of protection around our police chief, Gordon Ramsay, our police officers and their families, and also our medical teams as they put their lives on the line to keep our community safe. And finally, Father, we ask that you help us to remember the homeless, the poor, and less fortunate. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. We'll now move into the approval of the minutes from a regular meeting. Has every member had a chance to review the minutes? If so, is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, then I will make a motion to pass the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote.
Aye.
Let the record show that Councilmember Blubog has voted aye. With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, the next item are proclamations.
So I have 3 proclamations here. And I don't know if anyone is here to collect a proclamation. If you are with the Fine Arts in our schools month, please feel free to come forward. All right, so we'll just have to mail this out afterwards. So I will read the proclamation. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, founded in 1870. Whereas the City of Wichita recognizes that art education, including drama, music, dance, and visual arts, is an essential part of basic education for all students, providing a balanced education that helps in developing full potential. And whereas the arts enrich the lives of children in Wichita by developing creative ability, self-expression, self-reflection, cognitive skills, discipline, and cross-cultural understanding. And whereas many national and state professional education associations hold celebrations in the month of March focused on students' participation in the arts. These celebrations give Wichita schools and those surrounding a unique opportunity to focus on the value of the arts for all students and to foster cross-cultural understanding. Whereas the fine arts are a significant component of students' educational development, teaching them the language and production of the arts and helping them understand the role of the arts in civilizations both past and present. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2021 as Fine Arts in Our School Month. In the City of Wichita, encourage all citizens to acknowledge the importance of the arts in Wichita and surrounding communities. Madam Clerk?
Did you read the Black
No, I didn't know if
Maternal
you were
and
going to
Infant Health Awareness Day?
list them all. All right. Next one is the Black Maternal and Infant Health Awareness Day. Is there anyone here to collect this one? If not, we will present this to the organization later. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas longstanding racial disparities in infant health means that Black babies in Wichita are more likely to die before reaching their first birthday than their white neighbors. Whereas Black mothers in Kansas are twice as likely to die in pregnancy, childbirth, and in the year after having a baby. Whereas racism caused persistent discrimination and desperate outcomes in the survival of infants and birth-giving parents of color. Whereas the Wichita Birth Justice Society, Kansas Sisters and Brothers for Health Infants, and the Kansas Birth Equity Network are leading the community to fight for maternal health equity in Wichita and all of Kansas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim March 3rd, 2021 as Black Maternal and Infant Health Awareness Day in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to recognize the tragedy of maternal health inequities and advocate for community-led solutions to the crisis.
National Social Work Month.
Is there anyone here to? Very good. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas the social work profession for decades has been dedicated to improving human well-being and enhancing the basic needs of all people, especially the most vulnerable among us. Whereas this year's Social Work Month theme, Social Workers Are Essential, embodies the heroic contributions of the social work profession in our nation, including the work they have done to heal our nation during these times of pandemic, racial unrest, and economic uncertainty. Whereas social workers in all parts of our society to empower people to live their fullest potential. Whereas social workers are one of the largest groups of mental health care providers in the United States and work daily to help people, whether in person or remotely, overcome substance abuse disorders and mental illness such as depression and anxiety. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2021 as National Social Work Month in the City of Wichita, and encourage citizens to join the National Association of Social Workers in Wichita State University in celebrating in support of the social work profession. Madam Clerk.
First speaker under the public agenda, Celeste Rossett, Developments in Wichita.
Welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
Your time starts when you start talking, so you got a moment to.
Good morning, Mayor Whipple and City Council members. I have 3 points to make. First, without an ethics policy, citizens don't know if a type of pay-to-play exists for developers. You could be voting in favor of a development project because of campaign contributions. Second, development deals are approved without citizen votes. We have no say. Third, you don't seem to actually know the cost of these projects. Riverside TIF is an example of development in a neighborhood by developers who are neighbors and friends of a current city council member. Not one of you abstained from voting for this development. Not one of you mentioned if a conflict of interest existed between you and the developer. Instead of requiring the developers to use special assessments, you created a TIF district to take care of the sewer lift station upgrades. Riverfront land was given away that the public owned to the developers without a competitive bid or without publication of the land giveaway in the local newspaper. Why? 3 of you are up for re-election this year. When are you passing an ethics policy? Second, development deals are being approved without citizen vote. The new ballpark stadium has cost $42 million in star bonds so far. The Wichita Eagle is calling it a $90 million stadium. Did citizens of Wichita vote on this development? No. Did citizens of Wichita vote on the 2% extra CID sales tax for this ball stadium? No. And the baseball team has dropped from AAA to AA. The affiliation has shifted from Miami Marlins to Minnesota Twins. Will the seats of the new stadium be filled? This has yet to be seen. A full year has gone by and nobody has sat in this new stadium. But you all went ahead and spent $42 million on the stadium without a citizen vote. You paid for it with debt that has to be paid back with interest, like a mortgage on a house or a loan for a car. And you plan to spend more money, tax increment financing bonds, general obligation bonds, and community improvement district bonds. You're pulling out the full array of alphabet bond financing for this project. Now, I'm not saying the new ball stadium isn't going to be a great thing. I hope it is successful. But here's the rub. We citizens didn't have a say in this new development project. Third, does anyone know how much the stadium is really going to cost us? COVID has changed things. I read the latest Star Bond report on the River District Stadium, and here's what worries me. You planned for the best, and you got hit with the worst. Revenue numbers were inflated higher by your staff than what the paid consultants thought. COVID hit, and the stadium didn't open. When it does, games will be limited. There was no revenue in 2019 and 2020, but we still had to make bond payments. The money set aside for the debt, the reserve, is gone. The capitalized interest fund, the reserve set aside for making debt bond payments, went from $3 million to less than 100. If you want to see the numbers for yourself, read the 2020 Star Bond report published by the state of Kansas. So the reserve fund is gone, but the debt payments still have to be made. And in 3 years, will double to include principal repayments too. So this year, the Star Bond repayment is $1.8 million. There is no way revenue for 2021 will cover this bond payment. So where do you expect to pull the money from? From the general fund? The general fund is how the city pays its employees, its firemen, its streets repair and public maintenance. Or are you planning to use the city's share of the countywide sales tax to pay for this debt? When the 1% countywide sales tax was approved, the legislation for this tax was clear. 1/2 of the proceeds will be pledged for property tax relief in compliance with the provisions of the state tax lid law. But have the taxpayers of Wichita actually gotten any property tax relief from the city's portion of the countywide sales tax? Is this fair to taxpayers of Wichita? Star bonds are redirecting sales tax revenue to privileged developers, not to lower property taxes for citizens. So first, for heaven's sakes, vote on an ethics policy. Second, development deals should be approved by citizen votes, not by pay to play. And third, use actual costs and revenues for a project. Don't inflate them by members of your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor.
Oh. Johnson snuck on us. Vice Mayor Johnson, my apologies.
Thanks, Mayor. Bob, can you correct me if I'm wrong? We are voting on a city ethics policy May 4th. Is that coming to council?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're still on time for that. And then could you also remind me, when are we going to start publicly talking about the budget and our financial situation? I think that's next month, maybe?
Retreat in April.
So we have a public retreat in April.
I believe it's either April 6th or April 8th.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. That was all, Mayor.
April 8th.
April 8th.
Any other comments? See none. Madam Clerk, my apologies for missing you on the list, Vice Mayor.
It's all right.
Andrew Crane, Transportation for the Blind Community.
Council.
Good to see you,
This
Mr.
is-
Crane. Welcome.
How are you? I am Andrew Crane with Guiding Paws ICT, founder and president, and here to talk to you today about the transportation and boosting the transportation here in Wichita. I've been on a big kick on this, and to get you guys to rev up here, and it's about time we need to do some upgrades on the transit center and paint that building to make it look a lot better in Wichita. That is your iconic building in downtown Wichita, and it needs to be painted and looking good. My next item is I'm going to be doing a presentation for the Wichita business community here, educating them on blind individuals with guide dogs and the importance to the blind community that blind individuals do need jobs here in Wichita. And going to be doing this presentation in November 12th, 2021. Would like to see all you guys out there and supporting me. And there's going to be some great speakers at this presentation and doing a fantastic job with the presentation. So hopefully we can get you guys to come out and support me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Madam Clerk.
Larissa Rapp, Students' Perspective on Climate Change.
Good morning.
Good morning, welcome. You have 5 minutes, and since this is your first time here, we ask for the record if you are willing and able to state your name and also your address.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Marissa Rapp. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm currently a junior at Wichita East High School. I'm here today because I'm concerned for my future and for the future of all the generations that are to come. First, let's start with a definition. Climate change is a long-term disruption of average weather patterns that define Earth's climate. According to the World Economic Forum, we will likely cross the threshold for dangerous temperatures at the earliest in 2027. By that point, such damage will be irreversible. We have already seen repercussions such as recent devastating hurricanes and inconsistent weather patterns for which we are not prepared. Imagine what will occur when conditions worsen. But it is not too late. Given these urgent deadlines, the safety and well-being of your children, grandchildren, and my future children is in danger. As I am too young to vote, I rely on reaching out to influential leaders such as you all to listen to my voice and do what is right. Kids like us are able to make small changes in our day-to-day life to help reduce our carbon footprint. However, these changes are nothing in comparison to what you have the power to do. It is our goal to encourage awareness of climate change among Wichitans, and creating an educated population is the first step in preserving our futures. By creating a sustainability plan, we can be more conscious with our contributions to the decay of our environment. I would like to end off my portion of the time with a quote from one of the most influential young leaders of my generation, Greta Thunberg. She wrote, "The eyes of all future generations are upon you, and if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you."
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Anglin, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am currently a junior at Wichita North High School. Many of you are probably wondering why a 17-year-old girl is standing in front of city council members, but I'm wondering the same thing myself. But this is my future, and I must take a stand. Youth are leaving Wichita at an alarming rate and not returning. Jobs in renewable energy are on the rise and contributing sustainable solutions. We have not yet jumped on this opportunity, and this is reflected by much of our generation leaving, never to return. Not only will sustainable jobs keep our youth here, they will save our city money in the long run. This is the future. Times are changing, with or without Wichita on board. So let me ask you, do we want to be a part of the solution or a part of the problem? If you want to keep my generation here, creating sustainable, long-lasting, and promising jobs is how to do it. Creating a sustainability plan is the first step in the right direction. Acting now should be seen as a necessity, but also as an opportunity to improve our city's health as well as its economy. Although funds are short, and it's important to focus on the necessities of our community, we and other leading scientists would argue that the sustainability plan is a necessity. We as Wichitans do not want our city to contribute to the damage done to our planet. By putting together a sustainability plan for the city of Wichita, we could significantly change the outcome of this fatal reality. I urge you to please release this sustainability plan and allow for public input for not just Wichita, but for my generation's future. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well done. Councilmember Claycomb.
Thank you. I know we have two other speakers that are going to speak on this also, but Manager, I think that we are kind of headed down this path. Could you speak just a little bit about maybe our plans for sustainability plan?
Mayor, council members, we have, as you know, we've done initial work on some provisions or portions of sustainability, especially in terms of energy and air quality. However, what we're trying to do is pull together a more comprehensive plan using assistance from WSU's Environmental Finance Center. And they're working with us to identify projects that will help us move forward in a more strategic way on sustainability initiatives. And hope to have that work completed sometime this year and then bring recommendations back to the council in terms of the plan. But again, it's we're trying to be practical. It's not just a policy-driven plan, but one that's driven by actual programs and activities.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate my colleague bringing that up. I just wanted to say thank you both for speaking up and using your voice. I love seeing young people do that and being juniors in high school. East is in District 1. But I think that's great and definitely keep taking a stand.
And just one thing we were able to get accomplished last year when it came to renewable energy, and perhaps the manager could give me the details on this. I believe our city buildings are over 90% now powered by wind, but I think I could probably get a better, more accurate percentage off the top of the manager's head and go. It would be very impressive if you knew that off the top of your head, by the way.
Sorry to disappoint. I don't know that I have the exact percentage. I will tell you that we've entered into a long-term energy agreement with Evergy, and a majority of the power that we purchase from Evergy is wind or will be wind-based.
Excellent. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Jane Burns, release draft of climate change plans, sustainability plans.
Welcome, Ms. Burns. So good to see you.
Nice to see you all. My name is Jane Burns. Today, we're a grassroots effort. That is, I'm not speaking on behalf of any of the organizations to which I belong. I do know that many folks are like us, concerned about the global climate emergency, feeling overwhelmed by it, wanting to do something about it. Today, we're asking the City Council to release its draft of the Wichita Sustainability Plan. And not only are we asking that the city's draft become public, but we're also asking that it be open to vigorous input by Wichitans of all ages this spring, this summer, this year. And then we're asking that the updated plan be publicized and activated so that we all have something to do. A sustainability plan, as you may already know, is trendy as well as very, very smart. Many other U.S. cities have what they call climate action plans or resiliency plans. I know of at least 40, but there may be as many as 600. Plenty of best practices to follow up on. There's money, as you probably already know, to be made in new green jobs. And I'm glad to hear that you've already switched some energy fixtures in buildings to save big time on energy costs. This very Sunday, the USA had thunder snows and twin tornadoes in Wyoming and Texas in one day. Climate disasters are colossally expensive. and becoming more frequent. I have 3 words: every single thing. Floods and droughts and severe storms will alter every single thing in our grandchildren's lifetimes: food, crops, water, energy, transportation. The climate emergency is urgent and enormous and inconvenient. Uninformed folks deny it, lazy folks ignore it, but responsible folks must address it. And that's what the sustainability plan is for. Greta Thunberg, already acknowledged, said as plainly as plain Jane is saying now. Sometimes we just have to find a way. We can still fix this. We must decide what path to take. Your sustainability plan is the first step in the right direction. To review, our request today is that City Council release its draft of its sustainability plan, solicit vigorous, prompt, informed input from the public, and implement effective solutions for Wichita. Parents, grandparents, neighbors of all ages, we want to do our part for our city and our planet. I know all of you, and I know you all to be good people. Some of you have children and grandchildren. Thank you for your good judgment in the past, and thanks for releasing your sustainability plan as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, and thank you, Jane, for your comments. Bob, I just have 2 questions for you, if that's okay. I know you mentioned that we're working with WSU and we're working on our plan, and you said in 2021 we will hopefully have a draft plan. Wondered if you have a more specific timeline, and then also have we thought about, I know we have, but could you share with the community what our plan for community engagement is? Thank you.
It's probably going to be towards the end of the year. It's extensive work that's being done. Up until this point, we've been pretty tactical in our approach, not strategic, and that's the idea, is to pull this together in a more comprehensive way. Not quite sure where we'll go when the work is done at the staff level. There's a possibility that the mayor and council could create a committee to work on it, on the initial draft, and go forward, or maybe something that we workshop with council and then decide on engagement strategies going forward.
And I imagine we'll probably have a workshop, we'll probably go to the district advisory boards, maybe a social media town hall. I mean, we'll use our normal strategies to try and engage the community. Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Michael McCorkle, climate change is coming.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mayor Whipple, City Councilmen and women, City Manager, and all who help make our community healthier and safer. Thanks for this opportunity to address the City Council concerning a critical initiative for our community and your responsibility to future generations of Wichitans. My name is Michael McCorkle, and I speak as a native Wichitan who has lived abroad for the past 30 years, but recently returned to my hometown to look after my aging parents. I ask to speak today for myself and my children, and your children, and their children, and future generations. Our planet is facing a global climate change emergency. Since 1979, U.S. government leaders at all levels have learned about the consequences of global warming. 42 years later, most elected public leaders are still not actively working to help their communities adapt to and mitigate climate change, which is a global challenge and a life or death issue for future generations. Communities everywhere must begin planning how they can reduce emissions so future generations will have any future at all. The consequences of not addressing this problem cannot be exaggerated. Bill Gates, in his latest book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, recommends engaging in the political process as the most important single step that people from every walk of life can take to help avoid a climate disaster. Community leaders across the U.S. and around the world that prioritize their citizens' quality of life today and for future generations have begun the essential work of developing local environmental sustainability plans. It is known that Wichita has already started to develop its own plan. Over a year ago, a written copy of Wichita's sustainability plan was seen, but it has still not been made public. Today, I call for the Wichita City Council to release the existing plan it has been working on for public comment and coordination with county-level sustainability planning efforts. Wichita planners have hopeful growth goals among competing communities, that of encouraging new investment and attracting new residents. Businesses and young professionals around the world can choose between progressive communities that recognize and address climate change from those communities that do not. City governments that do not embrace the challenge and opportunity of climate change with emission-reducing actions and initiatives are unlikely to attract the desired young professionals to increase their community tax base. Wichita should release its sustainability plan and coordinate such efforts with the county. Now is the time for Wichita to move forward with a local sustainability plan to address climate change. Wichita's future prosperity depends on your leadership on this consequential problem. Thank you for taking action on this today.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 32.
Has every member had a chance to review the consent agenda? And if so, is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. No discussion. I just want to point folks' attention to a Facebook Live that Chief Ramsey and I did on Friday regarding some of the issues with our law enforcement department. It's really informational. I just want to encourage more people to check it out when they get a chance.
Other discussion or comments? If there is no further discussion, I will make the motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 32 as presented.
Second.
It's been seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk, open the roll. Members cast the votes. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye. Aye.
With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Report of Board of Bids and Contracts dated March 15th, 2021.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Melinda Walker, Finance. For engineering bids, we have the trail improvements to Pawnee Prairie Park Phase 2. We're deferring to next week. Sanitary sewer for Schulte Johnson Second Edition is McCullough Excavation for $917,914. For the 2021 sidewalk maintenance, PPJ for $983,125. OJ Park Event Center, we're deferring to April 5th. Paving for Cheryl's Hollow Second Edition, concept doing business as Kansas Paving, $377,605.60. For the water distribution system, New Spring Commercial Edition, Phase 2, Apex, aggregate bid total, $48,221. We have demolition and site services. We have our primary contractor, H Excavating, and secondary is HD Mills. And the Exhibit B is the unit pricing for the contract. We have a belt filter press rebuild for Alpha Laval Inc. For Group 1, $40,630, and Group 2, $104,285.30. Asbestos abatement, we have ACM Removal of Kansas as the primary, and Integrated Solutions as the secondary, and Exhibit B for the itemized pricing. Asphalt hot and cold mix will defer to next week. Fiberglass hinged frame and lids, virtual polymer compounds, $85,000, and Exhibit B for the itemized pricing. Transportation of spoils, Pearson at Construction LLC for $186,800, and Exhibit B for the itemized pricing. Auto glass for vehicles and mechanical equipment is North Star Automotive Glass for a 56% discount off the NAGS price list. We have laboratory management software licensing for LabWorks for sewer maintenance for $87,660, and TIPS Public Housing One-Stop Kiosks from Dynatouch Corporation for $172,256. And then our website to become a registered vendor, a list of our open request for proposals that's on our vendor self-services, and approve the bid awards as recommended.
Are there questions about the presentation or discussion? See none. With that, I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to file and receive the report, approve the contracts, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Bluebog votes aye, which is obvious because you all heard it. With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Petitions for public improvements.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item before you this morning is petitions for public improvements. As always, the signatures on these petitions represent 100% of the improvement district, and all petitions are valid per Kansas statute. In November of 2018, the City Council approved petitions for water, sewer, drainage, and paving improvements to serve Cedar Creek Addition, which is north of Pawnee and west of Greenwich Road. The developer has now submitted revised petitions to modify the lot configurations to meet the current market conditions. And on all of these, again, for the proposed improvements for water, drainage, sanitary sewer, and paving, all of the budgets have decreased. Typically, most developers now are looking to build smaller phases. So I would expect that's what's being reflected here. Staff recommends City Council approve the revised and new petitions and budgets, adopt the amending resolution, authorize necessary signatures. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
All right, questions for staff? Discussion on the report. If there's no questions or further discussion, then I will go ahead and make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the petitions and budgets, adopt the resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast a vote. Councilmember Bluebog will also vote, please.
Aye.
With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Selection of candidate to fill vacancy in City Council District 3.
Excellent. So a couple things before we get started. First off, for those who have been following this, the last meeting in which this was on the agenda did not result in any of the candidates receiving the necessary 4 votes to secure the position. Therefore, the ordinance states that the process gets moved to the next scheduled regular meeting. So the process that we followed last time was calling everyone up by alphabetical order, allowing them 3 minutes to speak, and then going through the ballots, the written ballots, and having the ballots read by the clerk. Now, we do have one member who is not physically with us, but who is with us virtually, and I believe we'll be voting by voice, but I do want to just defer quickly, just cover all my bases to legal, that she has read the ordinance, which is specific about voting, and she is comfortable with allowing the member to vote by distance.
That's correct.
Excellent. So with that, we will start. And again, round two. So I think everyone kind of knows what we're doing here. So we will start with Mr. Sorello, followed by Miss Cindy Miles.
Morning, Mayor.
Morning, sir. Welcome.
City Council, members, staff, Mr. Manager.
Please project into the microphone.
Once again, thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you this morning. And again, thank you to the fellow candidates as well for sticking through this process with the rest of us. It remains an incredible honor, and I am truly humbled to even be considered for this seat. I've been thinking a lot these last couple of weeks about what else can I say to you. We've been through interviews. We've been through interviews with the DAB as well. What else can any of us say to you that hasn't already been said these last couple of months? I think any of us could talk all day about our involvement in the community and how proud we are of that involvement. And again, I believe it is with gratitude and a sense of responsibility that I seek to serve the residents of District 3. I think about this position every single day, and not just in these last couple of weeks, but these last couple of months. I think about it every day. It pains me to see that our seat on this council continues to go unrepresented, so I would strongly urge you all to come to a consensus today, no matter who it is, and give District 3 the respect that it deserves by choosing someone. District 3 deserves to be represented by a qualified and engaged person. And while, yes, I truly believe that I am the best candidate for the seat, I'm confident that any one of the 5 people who remain would be capable of representing District 3. I seek this seat because each and every resident of District 3 deserves to have a strong foundation from which to thrive, and that means quality schools, quality churches, mentors, investment in their neighborhoods, small businesses, good jobs. Over these last few months, I've tried to listen to each and every one of you. I have taken notes. I have reflected on the conversations that we have had. My glasses keep fogging up. Sorry. And I have noticed that each of us has a compelling story that involves some sort of loss or hardship. What has also become clear is that we each have a shared vision about what we want for our community. Nope, that's not going to work. We want walkable communities. We want quality schools. We want meaningful relationships with our neighbors, whether they live on the same street or in a different part of the district. We want good jobs that pay a living wage. We want a variety of small businesses that reinvest in our community. We want diverse housing opportunities for our seniors and our most vulnerable populations. And we want mentors, and I will look to each of you as mentors as I grow and learn in this position if I am so graciously chosen. I'm not going to pretend that I can fix all of the problems that District 3 faces. I simply want to be the catalyst that re-energizes and re-engages our community. And I truly believe I am the right person for that role. And I truly believe that if we work together as a team, we can accomplish so much more for District 3 and Wichita as a whole. So today I ask for your vote graciously. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Miss Cindy Miles. Mr. Virgil Miller Jr., you're on deck. And again, we are 3 minutes. If you go over a little bit, I'll let you complete the thought. I'll probably give you one of these signs up here. That's just a reminder.
I'm going to try to stick with my 3 minutes today.
Excellent.
So, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for the opportunity to present and to speak to you once again, not only the staff, but city council members and the mayor. So, I'm with Jared. You know, I've interviewed, I've had conversations, I've tried to gain input, and I'm kind of at a loss of What do I say from here? And I've shared a lot about my experience and the things that I've learned and the things that I've been involved with, and you all know that part of me. I'd like to take a minute, though, to share with you about just who I am. So I am a woman that's married to my husband, Mark, 30 years today. So I believe in, family values. I think family is important, and I think that's important to our district. I'm the mother of 6 kids, married, 16 grandkids with another one on the way. I'm an active member of Bethel Life Center, an Assembly of God church that I've been involved with for many years. And I believe in following God. So, but I believe in practicing leadership. And I'm a community volunteer, and I've committed my life to serving and advocating for people and improving quality of life in our community. That's important for me. I practice leadership skills I have learned through my involvement in Advance Kansas, Leadership Wichita, Leadership Butler Junior League, and the past 10 years being involved with the Kansas Leadership Center. I think practicing leadership is important, and I think this district needs good leadership. I brought people together to get things done, and some of the things that I've gotten done is developing a partnership between the city and Butler Community College to bring a culinary arts program to Boston Rec Center when Boston Rec Center was on the verge of closing down. I built a scholarship and college success program to pave the way for Hispanic high school students to go to college. I've developed leadership programs for African American and Hispanic students and nonprofit leaders, staff, and volunteers. I've helped to build a much-needed children's home in Andover to serve the abused and neglected children that live across our state. I've worked on the Safe Haven project to try to save babies and raise the funds to have Safe Haven signs put up at the police stations, the fire stations, the hospitals, and the health department, because I think relinquishing babies in unsafe ways isn't a good thing. I've helped to found Empower Evergreen, an organization that will serve the Hispanic population in District 6. I think it's much needed. What I do want you also to know about me is that if I'm appointed to this position, I realize that there are projects in the pipeline that I need to learn about. Not only projects for the city, but projects for the district. And as much as I'd like to hop in and change everything in the next 10 months, I know that I can't do that. I can do what's before me. I can learn from you what are the priorities. I can depend on you to guide me in what needs to be done to take on the challenges that we have today. That's all I can do. I think District 3 needs the best representation that District 3 can have, and I hope that you'll think about who that person might be. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Virgil H. Miller Jr. Joseph Shepard, you're on deck. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, and members of our community. I had considered not coming this morning since your vote at the last meeting had apparently removed me from consideration for the appointment to the open District 3 seat. I chose to come and speak to show you, as well as the people of Wichita, especially District 3, that I care about the position and am eager to work for them and with them, even if I am not their appointed representative. I am disappointed with the results of the voting at your last meeting, not just because my name was not mentioned, but mostly because this council would not waver from their individual votes through all 5 ballots. There is nothing in the ordinance, specifically 2.04.230B, that I saw to prohibit each member from giving a short speech about the candidate they voted for in hopes of convincing another member to change their vote. The District Advisory Board has already narrowed the field of candidates to 5 competent choices. I understand that a candidate's interview with each of you may have gone differently, and each of you sees something that appeals to you in the candidate you voted for. But why were you not able to work together to make a selection? Today's meeting could have been the opportunity for the newest member of the City Council to start working for the residents of District 3. In the next week, the newest member of the Council could have reviewed the applications to the District Advisory Board and filled the 2 or possibly 3 vacant positions on that board, as well as start on other necessary duties. Since I am here, and there is about to be another round of voting, I ask you to reconsider your vote from 2 weeks ago. Remember the speeches given by the other candidates. Remember that they explained characteristics they would like to see in the next council member. The ability to work hard with people I may not agree with, a history of investigating and getting both sides of the story, and creating a culture of unity. I have lived in the district for a period of time, in fact, most of my life, with the remainder still being in South Wichita, just outside the district borders. I do have a demonstrated ability and willingness to listen, learn, act, and serve as a servant leader, as demonstrated by my participation at my church, my 30-year career as a member of the Wichita Police Department, my memberships to the Knights of Columbus and the Fraternal Order of Police, as well as my volunteer work that includes 13 years of volunteer income tax preparation for low-income individuals and families, as well as the elderly in our community through the United Way. Though I have not been a member of the various boards and committees you and the other candidates have experience with, it does not mean I have not done equally important work for the city as a whole, or in my neighborhood, or District 3. I also ask that after your first round of voting, if no selection is made because you voted the same as you did the first 5 times, that you each reconsider your vote and look for the good in another candidate. Don't leave the selection of the next council member to the chance of a coin flip. Show the people of District 3 that they are worth working for, and the representative on the council was not selected, but chosen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Joseph Shepard, followed by George Theo Harris. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. I humbly come before you this morning to ask and earn your vote to represent District 3, the city of Wichita, in the capacity of city council member of District 3. Last time I had the opportunity to come before you, I told you that I believed this role required sacrifice and for one to hold a servant's heart, leading with grit, grace, and gratitude. As I mentioned before, this is my personal philosophy when leading. However, I never had the opportunity to share with you as to what led to this personal philosophy and how it developed the skills I believe will benefit the district if granted the chance and opportunity to serve. On 3 separate occasions within the last week, the question, what skills do you bring that will benefit the council, district, and city, were asked to me. Without hesitation, I answered, I'm a hard worker, I am a bridge builder, and I understand the importance of listening to learn, not to respond. In my adolescent years, I learned the importance of hard work. Growing up homeless, sleeping in a car, and getting washed up in a McDonald's restaurant before school taught me that I had the power to change the trajectory of my life through hard work. My hard work led me to college, where I encountered many challenges as a first-generation college student, but pushing through in the face of adversity led me to the finish line. That same tenacity, that same work ethic, is the same work ethic and tenacity I put into my collegiate years. It's the same work ethic that I put into communities that I serve in. And though I have only lived in the district for close to 1 year, it is not indicative of my leadership skills. It is because my servant leadership does not know boundaries that my work has touched District 3 and the people of District 3, including my family that has lived there, through community service work, professional work, and family ties over the last 5 years. I don't believe my work is done, and I hope that I can earn the opportunity to continue my work in this capacity. Having grown up in the faith community my whole life, I learned the importance of grace, understanding, and valuing other people's perspective, even if they are different from your own, even if you disagree. It's what makes me a bridge builder. In District 3, the people are not worried about how one affiliates or identifies. Our district is looking for leadership that can help create solutions to the problems we are facing. From food insecurity to safety insecurity. These are the issues that we can unite on. These are the issues that keep each and every one of us up at night. United issues that I promise to focus on if granted the opportunity to work alongside you and the people of District 3. As a child, my grandfather would remind me, Joseph, a hard head makes for a soft bottom. And to be very clear with you this morning, I have fallen on my bottom in my leadership walk. And I can own that because it taught me the importance of listening. Listening to understand, not respond. I do not know everything. I own that. But I am willing and ready to listen and learn. Listen to you, the people of District 3, and the staff, the experts who have the background and the knowledge. You have an important decision to make, and as I've asked many of you throughout the last couple of months, I hope that of everything you see of me, you see my heart, my desire to serve, my work ethic, my grit, my grace, my gratitude. I'm hoping that I can play a role in this capacity in the continued growth of District 3, as I'm a proud uncle of a niece and nephews that live here and have lived in District 3 for years. I'm asking that you grant me the opportunity and the honor to serve alongside you and the people of District 3 to move us towards an even brighter future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And the final person on the list, Mr. George Theo Harris.
Mayor, City Council, City Manager, City Legal. I actually thought this was a roast, so I got the wrong message, so I'm sorry. But I have worn the suits and bled my heart out to this council. I come today with my work clothes on because District 3 needs someone ready to start working for its citizens. The paper said I get things done. You may have heard that. There are several directors behind me. Please ask them. My wife's birthday is tomorrow, and I have 23 identical work shirts as this one. 23 identical work shirts. So here are our work cones to match. I'm retired, and my RN nurse, while during a pandemic, was all in to give District 3 the best 1-2 punch it has ever had, and yet I couldn't garner one vote from this partisan council. I am by far the least partisan person of the 5 candidates. We were asked by the DAB, how much time would you spend each month on your duties if you were the council member? A week would have made a lot more sense. How would we possibly know how long something would take us to do if we've never done the job? So I flipped the script and asked the subject matter experts, in an average week, how many hours do you work? These are the answers from this council: 40 hours, 45 to 50 hours times 2, 45 hours, but as many as 70 to 80, and the winner was 24/7. I'm from Missouri at this point, the show me state. Then in our individual meetings, we were asked by 4 counselors, what would we do the first 100 days? Once again, how would we know? So I asked Mayor Longwell, and he ran through his first 100 days. But at the end, he went on to say he probably would have given this hardworking Democrat a vote. I have 100 pennies for the appointed candidate with a wish for success for each of those first 100 days. I am a Kennedy Democrat from Massachusetts, have been all my life. These partisan council votes have these great leaders, JFK from the Democratic Party and Ronald Reagan from the Republican Party, turning in their respective graves. Upon my exit today, I will be walking across the street and changing my status to independent like Cindy Claycomb. My only fear is I am struck dead crossing the street and die a Democrat. 12 plus years ago, Mr. Layton came in like an Iowa cyclone, and after receiving millions of dollars on the backs of the taxpayers in salary, he may have reached his shelf life. Yet, don't fret, as he can possibly still get Century 2 torn down for his everlasting legacy. Thank you.
Well, all right, let's get voting. Oh, Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Really quick, because this has bothered me for some time, and it's in the paper again today, and we just heard it. I just want to say for District 3 citizens of Wichita, my vote is not partisan. My vote has never been partisan. And it's wholly offensive to say so because I voted for someone of the same party. It's wholly offensive to the individual I voted for. It's wholly offensive to me as a man because that's never come up. I've been through 2 appointment processes. The first time I had an opportunity to vote for someone of my party, I did not. I voted for the person who I thought was best for the job. That council member's doing an amazing job. This time, I voted for who I thought would represent District 3 the best, the person who has a lived experience that can engage parts of the community that have not been engaged, that could work with parts of the community that had not been worked with, who did not feel they had been heard, who did not feel they could reach out to. Someone who had more experience than I did when I ran for office. And the same arguments that have been made about that person, whether it's partisanship, experience, were made about me. And I continue to hear that. It's wholly offensive to that person, their work ethic, and what they stand for, and what they want to do in serving the district, as well as me. I don't care about political party. I care about service to the community. I care about getting issues resolved. I want to make sure Wichita goes the best direction it can, that we can get out of this pandemic, grow, be more inclusive, and again, have better neighborhood engagement. And the continued assumptions, assertions, whether it's from the media, individuals, candidates, that this is partisan, at least for Brandon Johnson, is wholly offensive. Is not the case. And I have voted for the individual that I think will do the work, will listen, will learn, will engage, and lay a strong foundation for whomever may come in 2022. Whether that person runs, whether that person wins, whoever is the council member in 2022, I voted for the person who I thought could lay that foundation. And lastly, again, any assertion that this is partisan is wholly offensive, not only to me, but to that individual. And I wholly reject that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council will vote on ballot 1. Please identify the person you would be casting your ballot for. Fold your ballot in half. The clerk will read after, or before the clerk reads them, but once she collects them all, we will have, I think, the council members vote who's online. Councilmember Bubak.
Jared Sorello.
Mayor?
Yes.
Councilmember Claycomb voted for Cindy Miles. Councilmember Brian Fry voted for Jared Sorello. Councilmember Becky Tuttle voted for Jared Sorello. Vice Mayor Brandon Johnson voted for Joseph Shepard. And Mayor Whipple voted for Joseph Shepard.
Ballot 2. Councilmember Bluebog.
Jared Sorello.
Councilmember Cindy Claycomb voted for Cindy Miles. Councilmember Brian Fry voted for Jared Sorello. Councilmember Becky Tuttle voted for Jared Sorello. Vice Mayor Brandon Johnson voted for Joseph Shepard. Mayor Whipple voted for Joseph Shepard.
Ballot 3. Councilmember Bluebog.
Jared Sorello.
Councilmember Cindy Playcomb voted for Jared Sorello. Councilmember Ryan Fry voted for Jared Sorello. Councilmember Becky Tuttle voted for Jared Sorello. Vice Mayor Brandon Johnson voted for Joseph Shepard. And Mayor Whipple voted for Joseph Shepard.
With a result of 4 for Jared Sorello to 2 to Joseph Shepard on the last ballot, the next City Council representative from District 3 will be Jared Sorello. Mr. Sorello, you will be sworn in at the next scheduled meeting. Looking over to staff to make sure that's true. Yes, which will be next week. We look forward to working with you. Where are you? There you are.
Will it be next week?
It'll be
Next week's
April.
workshop.
Next week's workshop, which is why I tried to, there we go, sorry. To the next scheduled meeting, regular meeting. However, we would ask that you
April 6th.
attend the workshop if you can to stay caught up. With that, we congratulations, and we will see you at the next scheduled meeting for sure. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to check with legal. Is it possible that we could do this at the consent meeting?
Yes, Councilmember, it is.
Why, okay, so would that take an action from this body to make a motion to make that happen?
Does not require a motion.
So I was right the first time. So, Mr. Sorello, we would ask that you would come to the next scheduled meeting, which will be a consent agenda meeting, so that we can swear you in and you can immediately start representing District 3. Thank you. Further discussion. Thank you, Councilmember Fry, for the point of parliament procedure. Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. That meeting's at 9:30. Just so you know, it's not 9 o'clock. It's at 9:30.
We don't do any hazing here, like nothing?
Bring donuts.
Chocolate donuts.
We go for a light jog at 6, so. But I do want to thank all the candidates who, really, this was a long process. It was even longer because we had a non-regular meeting between this. It really takes a lot to step up and step out, put your name on the ballot, to put yourself really out in public, open yourself up for the microscope that comes with the media, that comes with politics, and there's just no, I think, amount of gratitude to thank not just the folks for District 3 who stepped up and did that process, but also for folks who seek to serve in elected office in general. So thank you to everyone who made it this far. Thank you to everyone who went out, knocked doors, and got on that initial list to be interviewed by the DAB. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing and request for a letter of intent for industrial revenue bonds, Steel Greenway LLC.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the Office of Economic Development for the City of Wichita. For the record, the item before you today is a request for multifamily housing revenue bond letter of intent for Greenway Park Apartments. Steel Greenway LLC is a recently formed limited liability corporation that will be a real estate holding entity to acquire the Greenway Park Apartments. Steel Greenway is a project of Steel Properties, which is based in Denver, Colorado. This will be the third project for Steel Properties in Wichita. They previously acquired Shady Way Plaza Tower and Somerset Tower here in Wichita and have renovated both of those projects. Steel Greenway is acquiring the Greenway Park Apartments, which is located at 404 West Pawnee Street for rehabilitation. The developer is requesting a letter of intent to issue multifamily housing revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $10 million. On this aerial, you can see Pawnee Avenue along the bottom of the aerial. Broadway Street is running from top to bottom on the right side. You can see the Arkansas River coming in on the left at an angle, and the area outlined in red is where the Greenway Park Apartments is located. Greenway Park Apartments is a 91-unit apartment complex for low-income seniors and disabled residents. It was built in 1979 and has had few upgrades or renovations since that time. The facility is covered by a Section 8 Housing Assistance Payment Program, which subsidizes a portion of the residents' rent. The developer intends to renew this Housing Assistance Payment Program for an additional 20 years, which will guarantee subsidies for the tenants in this facility. Steel Greenway intends to invest a minimum of $4.4 million in renovation of this facility in addition to its acquisition investment. The renovations will include upgrades for ADA requirements, bathroom and kitchen renovations, painting and landscaping the exterior, installing hardwired smoke and CO2 detectors, new refrigerators and ranges in all of the units, among other improvements. These are a couple of photos of the exterior. You can see it as a 3-story mid-rise facility as opposed to the towers they have previously acquired here in Wichita. These are a couple of the interior photos. Steel Greenway has applied for 4% low-income housing tax credits through the state of Kansas, which requires the use of tax-exempt bonds. The tax-exempt bonds provide a lower interest rate, which helps make the project more feasible for the developer. The bonds will be used to achieve a tax-exempt rate as well as a sales tax exemption. No property tax abatement is being requested as part of this request. The bonds will be placed privately with KeyBank National Association. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures. I believe Justin Unger, who is the development manager for Steel Properties, is available by Microsoft Teams, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Are there any questions for staff? See none. Is there any discussion? If there's no further discussion, then I will make the motion. Oh, yes, for district. Okay. I will make the motion. Oh, Councilmember Clayco.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
Sorry, I didn't jump in there fast enough. I know this is District 3, but Steel Properties is rehabbing an apartment tower in District 6 and also one in District 1. And so since there was no one here from District 3 to speak, I just want to talk about the work that they are doing. I drove by Somerset apartment towers the other day and could see the exterior and the work that they're doing there, and could see that there were people doing interior work. And Justin was so kind as last week to give us a photo tour of the inside. And I just think that it is so important, the work that they're doing in preservation of low-income affordable housing in our city. If you look at the apartments that they're going to rehab in District 3, you can see the potential that they have. And so I'm very excited for District 3. The renovations are really nice in terms of upgrades to the interior and the exterior. And I think something that kind of gets lost is just the incorporation of energy efficiency improvements that are in this proposal. So I want to thank Justin and his team for coming to Wichita and helping us with these projects.
So, and I might have been moving a little too fast. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak to this? If not, I will defer to District 6 council member for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I will second it. Also wanted to add a comment. I am appreciative to Justin and his team for the work that they're doing around affordable housing, and what happened at Shady Way. That splash of color is awesome. The tour that we had is great. Looking forward to in person. But I just wanted to shout Justin out for doing it the right way. You don't always see that, and he's really making some investments, he and his team, upgrading those properties. I know the residents will appreciate it. And just kudos to you, Justin, for doing it in the way that you are. And I think it'll be a valued asset for years to come, thanks to your hard work. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
resolution considering the establishment of the ICT 21 redevelopment district tax increment financing.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, members of City Council. Mark Elder with the Office of Economic Development here to speak about the resolution concerning the establishment of the ICT 21 redevelopment district for the use of tax increment financing. So this resolution is just to set a public hearing on April 20th to consider this. So this is just the first step in which we now are making a minimum 30 days of public notice to consider this item. ICT 21 is the redevelopment of the former El Paso refinery site. It's the developers have assembled approximately 115 acres for this redevelopment. They also plan to develop approximately 1 million square feet of new construction over the next 10 years. And this use will include warehousing, manufacturing, industrial, as well as transit facilities. They also do plan on participating in the city's spec warehouse program for a portion of this project. You'll see that identified in one of the later slides. Just kind of an older photo of what the El Paso site looked like a while ago with all the wells and tanks, and you can see there's a lot of activity there that did cause a lot of contamination along the way as well. This area is considered an eligible area based on the fact that it's existing within an enterprise zone. The boundaries, which are easier to see on the next page, but they do include I-35 on the east, as well as the convergence of Chisholm Creek and the East Fork Chisholm Creek on the south, Chisholm Creek and the rail line on the west, and what would be 25th Street North if it was extended on the north. But it also includes 21st Street North to Broadway Avenue. This map here, just a little bit of explanation. In establishing the TIF district, you also can include the proposed project areas. This project, or this development, has proposed 4 project areas. This allows it for, as the project progresses and its development occurs in additional phases, you can then activate those additional project plans. You can also do a project, more than one project plan at one time, but it allows you to separate how that project will occur. You can also see this gray area with the red lines. That's identifying property parcels that are to be included within the redevelopment district, but are not within a project area. This is the area where the developer intends to utilize the spec industrial program, and the reason they're not included in a project area, TIF statute does not allow a property tax abatement within a project area, but it can occur within a district. And that's what happens here, but this also allows for the years that there is not a property tax abatement that also can contribute to the redevelopment district. Just want to include an aerial as well to show that the site that although most of the project has been cleared, you can still see there's a lot of work to do, even just for site preparation to begin. And so with this project, there is a lot of existing environmental conditions that create additional requirements as well as just costs associated with redeveloping this project, but it limits the types of development that can occur due to the previous uses. But it does create opportunities for job creation in the area as well as development along a highly visible yet still underdeveloped area in North Wichita. Here's a preliminary site plan that developers have put together. It's still conceptual, but this is one of the ideas they're looking at for how the development will occur. With that, there are some proposed TIF improvements that would include widening 21st Street North from I-135 to Mosley. We have included all the way to Broadway to allow if there are funds available, but it gets a little trickier as you go, but the TIF does allow it to go that far. There will also be traffic signals along 21st Street. Those would be added as engineering sees the need to occur, so they won't happen immediately unless they see that there's enough traffic to justify it. But it does also have site preparation and new site infrastructure in that area. So what happens next is the public hearing that would occur on April 20th. At that time, a memorandum of understanding would also be considered for the council. That would set forth the general description of what the developer would agree to and what the city is going for, with a final development agreement presented prior to the approval of the final project plan. But following the public hearing, that also provides a 30-day window for the county and school district to consider the establishment of this TIF district. But once that time period expires, a project plan can then be considered and presented to the city council. It follows the same process where we first set a public hearing, and then following the 35 days, that public hearing can occur. But at that time, the project plan would be more specific, not only in what project areas the development would be occurring in first, but also establishes the project budget, the investment of the developer, as well as how the TIF funds within those project areas will be used. Prior to coming to the City Council, the MAPC would consider the project plan to make sure it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And then following that, that would be presented to the City Council to set the hearing and consider that plan. With that, the recommendation would be for the City Council to adopt the resolution providing notice of consideration of the establishment of the ICT 21 redevelopment district and set a public hearing for April 20th, 2021. Representatives from the development team are also in the audience if you have any questions for them.
All right. Any questions of staff? If not, should we go out? Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak to this before we continue discussion from the bench? There are no discussion from staff, so we'll open up to the public.
Thank you, Mayor Whipple. As you
Welcome.
know, my concern with TIF districts, tax increment financing, is just that you've done your financial homework and you understand the implications of a 20-year TIF district that can be renewed. In particular, the Wichita Business Journal said that proceeds will go towards maintenance and relocation of oil wells, as well as cleanup of contamination on the grounds. So I'm hoping you'll put that in the memorandum of understanding the requirements you're expecting for the cleanup of contamination. Thank you.
Further discussion from the public? See none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Are there members who would like to discuss? Vice Mayor Johnson was reaching. There he is. Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I know we're just setting a public hearing, but this is a potentially exciting project in the development in that area, and growing up near that area, seeing it transform from what it was to what it is today to what it potentially could be with this, I think is pretty exciting and could be a big benefit for the city of Wichita. So just wanted to say that.
All right, so this falls into District 6, so we will recognize Councilmember of District 6, Councilmember Claycomb.
Thank you, Mayor. As Vice Mayor said, we are just setting the public comment, but this is exploring turning a really challenging piece of property into productive uses. With that, I move that we adopt the resolution providing notice of consideration for the establishment of the IC21 redevelopment district and set a public hearing for April 20th, 2021.
Second.
And seconded by the Vice Mayor. Council will record their vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
The result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. By setting a public hearing, it means I wasn't supposed to go out to public comment, I believe, but I will just say that Johnson was the one who texted me and said, don't forget to go out to public comment on the last one, so I'm giving him some of the blame for this.
I own it.
All right. Sir, welcome back.
Good morning, Mark Elder again with the Office of Economic Development. This item before you today is a petition to renovate the facade at 400 South Emporia. Again, this item is a resolution setting a public hearing. This public hearing would be for April 6th, however. The facade improvement program was established a while ago. In 2001, though, with the low interest loans and grants to enhance the aesthetics in downtown and its corridors. But in 2009, that policy was revised to require matching investment as well as additional securities for the city. The program does include a grant portion for eligible projects that's up to 25% of the facade improvement project. But with that, it's limited to up to $10,000 for mid-block and up to $30,000 for a corner building with 2 facades. If this project were to move forward with approval by the City Council, that would leave $31,331 left in that grant funding program. This project does include the rehabilitation of 400 South Emporia. The total estimated project cost is $740,000. For the exterior, the developer does include brick repairs, improvements to the entrance, but it also includes a new entrance on Waterman. This building faces the arena, and therefore they're providing an arena-facing entrance to the building. It also includes enlarging some of the windows along Waterman, and additional work to both restore the building and meet code requirements. This is an aerial here showing you the location of the building. You can see right across the street there is the arena. This is an existing west facade as it is today. The developer, here's a corner shot of what they're proposing to do with that corner with the enhancements and new finishes. But then when you look at the north facade, it's fairly plain, needs a little bit of cleaning, but also has this bricked-in area here that doesn't quite match it. I believe is an old coal chute. The new plans include this entrance that's at the east side there. They'll include additional work and also some mirroring of some of the design elements of the arena. Just kind of an entrance point here as well. Then you can see on the west side they've addressed with the larger windows as well as some of those additional enhancements that are carried out throughout the building. And this is just one good view of the north facade there if you're looking from the arena. This facade project, it's an estimated cost of $354,000. That includes a 10% contingency the city adds to their cost. This is because we do a maximum assessment, so that all the costs are approved up front. We include a contingency in case their costs do go over. It does also have a city administration fee as well as the financing costs. Those financing costs also include 1 year's worth of debt service that are financed and held by the city. Again, it's another security the city has in place if there are any difficulties. But it also does have a $30,000 grant, which would make the maximum assessment $380,000. So with that, special assessments are spread against the property when the project's done with the interest rate set by a bond sale. It's repaid over the 15-year period. The owner does pay construction costs, but will be reimbursed after the project is complete and the special assessments can be placed against the property. So with this, the resolution sets a public hearing for April 6, 2021 for consideration of the project and the setting of that maximum assessment ordinance. Following completion of the facade improvements, a final assessment would be set if it's less than that maximum amount. So when they're done, we know the actual number and all those other variables will be adjusted to meet that final cost and set the maximum assessment. With that, I'll set a recommendation for the City Council to accept the petition, adopt the resolution setting the public hearing for April 6, 2021, and authorize the necessary signatures. And a representative of the development is here for any questions as well.
Are there any questions of staff? All right, see no questions. Any discussion on the item? If there is no discussion, then I will make the recommendation, or excuse me, this is District 1. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. This is again, we're setting a public hearing, but this is another opportunity to develop downtown in a really nice way, and this group does some really good work. With that, I would move that the City Council accept the petition, adopt the resolution setting a public hearing for April 6, 2021, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Motion has been made, and I will go ahead and second it. Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the votes, except for Bluebog, who shall cast his vote now.
Aye.
With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
CDBG Funding Agreement, Wichita Housing Authority Rental Assistance Demonstration Project.
Director Stang.
Good morning,
What great
Mr.
work are
Mayor.
you doing this week?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good.
Members of Council, Sally Stang with the Housing and Community Services Department for the record. The item I have for you today is a funding agreement for the Wichita Housing Authority RAD project for CDBG funds previously allocated. So it's a partial funding agreement. Just as a reminder, this has been going on for quite a while. So the rental assistance demonstration allows public housing authorities to convert its public housing units to a Section 8 contract. And that allows us to obtain capital in order to, financing in order to renovate those public housing units. Under public housing, we're not allowed to acquire debt. So the Wichita Housing Authority Board approved the application for RAD in February 2017. The conversion to RAD provides us with the ability to secure that private financing and public sources. So we have achieved the 4% low-income housing tax credit financing. We're using CDBG and home funds administered through our community development programs, and we're also securing a HUD 221D4 loan. On March 18th, 2018, the board approved the agreement with KBK Enterprises to serve as the development partner. And in December of 2018, the council approved a substantial amendment to our consolidated plan and annual action plan and provided a commitment of $2,675,000 in reallocated CDBG funds, as well as Section 108 repayment funds for the RAD project. So the CDBG and Section 108 repayment funds were allocated to cover the cost of tenant relocation, as well as some of the renovation costs. So just over $1.5 million in relocation costs and $1,154,462 towards the renovation. That renovation cost is a component of the financing plan for the renovation of all 226 rental units in Greenway Manor, McLean Manor, Rosa Gregg, and Bernice Hutcherson, all senior housing properties. The regulations applicable to the CDBG program, though, specify that we cannot have more than 1.5 times our most recent annual grant in our line of credit with HUD. And since we only received our 2020 access to our 2020 credit line in November of last year, and we've had a couple of delayed projects, including this RAD senior housing development and the Dunbar Theater, we're at risk of not meeting our timeliness ratio, which HUD will do that determination on May 2nd. To help alleviate that issue, we're proposing to enter into this written agreement with WHA's RAD development entity, Wichita RAD Senior LP, in the amount of $500,000 to offset some of the pre-development costs that we've incurred for the project, which includes the plans, the specifications, environmental reviews, capital needs assessments, et cetera. We've been paying for those costs through a line of credit on which we're paying interest. So this agreement allows that we can provide that $500,000 to pay some of those costs to reduce our interest, but also meet our timeliness ratio. The agreement also specifies that once the project closes, which is scheduled now for June 2021, those funds will be paid back to the CDBG program to be reallocated back for the construction. So there's no impact to the general fund. We're not asking for any more CDBG funding to be allocated to the project, and it's provided as in the form of a loan, a short-term loan, to be fully repaid at project closing. The funding agreements have been reviewed and approved as to form by the Law Department, and it's our recommendation that the City Council approve the CDBG funding agreement with Wichita RAD Senior LP for the Wichita Housing Authority's Rental Assistance Demonstration Project and authorize the necessary signatures. And I stand for any questions that you may have.
Questions for staff? See no questions. Open up for comments. See no comments. We'll bring discussion back to the bench. Discussion on the item. See no discussion. With that, I will make a motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the CDBG funding agreement in Wichita RAD Senior LP for the Wichita Housing Authority Rental Assistance Demonstration Project and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by the Vice Mayor Johnson. With that, members will go ahead and cast their vote, and Councilmember Blubog will go ahead and voice his vote.
Aye.
With a result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
General obligation note sale.
You okay, Mark?
Good morning, Mayor.
You just tripped over there. Are you good? Okay. Morning.
Morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. Mark Manning with the Department of Finance. Today I want to present to you the results of our most recent note sale. Just a reminder, we issue temporary notes to finance capital improvement projects, typically the in-progress capital improvement projects. We'll retire these notes typically using either bond proceeds or debt service fund cash or money from other sources. This particular series is Series 304. They will mature in 6 months, which is October of this year, and the issuance size is roughly $55 million. These notes include a variety of projects. They include about 42 million or so in GEO projects and about 13 million or so in GEO projects backed by special assessments. You may recall that 1 month ago, on February 16th, City Council authorized the note sale, and the sale actually occurred last Thursday on March 11th. So we had a very good sale. We received 7 bids, which is indicative of the access that the city continues to have in the capital markets, which is a really good thing. The bid spread was very tight, again, a very good thing. Staff awarded the bid to B of A Securities Incorporated, and we awarded that bid at a true interest cost of 0.11%, which is very attractive. For a frame of reference, you may recall that last time we issued notes, we issued at 0.22%. That also was historically low. In 2019, when we issued notes, we were closer to about 1.3%. So very attractive rate. So the recommended action today is to ratify the award of the bid, approve the note resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Further discussion? If there's no further discussion, then I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to ratify the award of the bid by the city manager or his designee, adopt the note resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Vice Mayor. Clerk, open a roll. Members cast their vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
Votes aye. With the result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, or 6 ayes, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2021 athletic court funding.
Morning, Mayor, City Council. My name is Larry Hoopmer, Public Works Engineering. The item before you today is 2021 athletic court funding. Provide some background on this project. This is an ongoing project that develops and rehabilitates athletic courts throughout the city. This includes all courts, tennis, futsal, pickleball, basketball, and multi-use courts. So the Park and Recreation Department goes through a prioritization process when we do this. We have 177 athletic courts which are inspected annually, and these courts are given a numerical condition rating or ranking based on a host of criteria. Park Recreation also gathers public input during this process. We gather individual complaints, comments throughout the year, interest groups that come to the Park Department, and on occasion we do surveys which may be sent out. After this is accomplished, Park Department puts together a program which is then presented to the Board of Park Commissioners and as well as the district advisory boards. So this is kind of a combination of activities that we do. This information is then combined to determine what the top priorities are. So for 2021, the athletic courts, the analysis has been that there are deficient basketball courts at Boston, Harvest, and Plainview Parks, which will be removed and replaced. And within the adopted 2021-30 capital improvement program for the Park Department, this includes $225,000 in 2021 for athletic courts. With this, staff recommends the City Council initiate the project, adopt the resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. I'll stand for any questions.
Or questions for staff? Well done. Is there any discussion on this item? There is not. Since this item falls into District 2, 3, and 5, the chair will recognize the council member from District 2, Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you to staff for all your hard work on this.
I apologize, Councilwoman. It
Oh,
appears,
sorry, Councilmember.
It appears another council member got on to make a comment, and then I will let you have the floor. My apologies. I know you want to make a motion, so we'll have the comment first. Councilmember Claycomb.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to staff for bringing these to the district advisory boards. This time, I think the DAB really appreciated that, to be able to see how this process is done and to look across the different districts and look at the court conditions. So thank you for that.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, the chair recognizes Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, and thank you to Councilmember Claycomb for making those great comments. Appreciated it well. It was great discussion at my district advisory board. So I'd like to make a motion to recommend the city council adopt the resolution, authorize the initiation of the project, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
The result of 6 ayes to no nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2021 City Hall Elevator Refurbishment.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Ben Nelson, Public Works and Utilities. This is the first of 5 items I'll review with you, most of which are renewal and replacement that is budgeted out of our CIP. This particular item is something that's run by our Public Facilities Group. We have 5 elevators here at City Hall. A lot of the mechanical, the hydraulic systems, the cabling and whatnot have a useful life of about 25 years, and obviously the consequences of an elevator failure are very severe. So we want to take a proactive approach. We have $3 million budgeted in the CIP for 2021 using general obligation bonds in order for us to refurbish all of those critical components of the elevator systems. We also have a small part of the project budget to upgrade some of the interior portions of the cabs. So what we're recommending today is initiation of the $3 million included in the CIP so that we can refurbish the elevators and get another 25 years of useful life out of them. And one other point I would add is that the City Council in December adopted a project to make some service changes on the first floor. A part of those are potential security access modifications to the elevators. There's a multi-departmental team that's working through that. We're a part of that team, so we're going to coordinate our elevator refurbishment along with any changes that get made by that team so that we're minimizing any potential impact to the building patrons. And that concludes the presentation. I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions of staff? There's no questions. Is there discussion on the item? No discussion on the item. I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the project, adopt the bond resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. All members cast the vote.
Aye.
Oh, I didn't. Never mind. Plus Councilman Bluebog. With the result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2021 Cultural Facilities Improvements.
Ben Nelson, Public Works Utilities for the record. This is another one of those renewal and replacement items. Every year, our CIP has a recurring amount for renewal and replacement at cultural facilities. These are places like museums, city arts, and those kinds of facilities. So we have $1,050,000 budgeted in TGT revenue for 2021. Primarily, most of this money would go toward some tuck pointing repairs, masonry, waterproofing, as well as finishing some roof replacement on top of the Kansas Aviation Museum. We're completing the first phase of it now that was funded by last year's funding. This is going to cover the rest of it. We're also looking at it through our operating budget, doing some potential seal work along the windows at the Aviation Museum in order to make sure that facility is waterproof to protect all the exhibits. We also have some fire and life safety upgrades, code compliance upgrades at City Arts and some other facilities, and we'll reserve also a portion of this annual funding for contingency in case there's any unforeseen needs or emergencies that arise, that we'll be able to respond to those quickly as well. So again, we recommend initiation of the 2021 project now, as well as the bonding resolution. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Is there questions for staff? Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, then I will make the motion to take staff's recommended action to approve the project, adopt the bonding resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
The result of 6 to 0, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Heavy equipment replacement and snow equipment replacement.
Again, Ben Nelson, Public Works and Utilities for the record. These are two more CIP items that we have on a recurring basis for renewal and replacement. This is shifting gears from public facilities over to our fleet assets. We particularly have two things that are in the CIP. One is a replacement of heavy equipment. These are things like dump trucks, paint stripers that are used by long line marking crews, forestry bucket trucks, and so forth, that have a long enough lifetime and are of a significant cost that it makes sense for us to use debt financing in order to pay for them. That's why they're in the CIP. We have other fleet replacements that are paid out of the operating budget, but these are large enough that they qualify for debt financing. So we have just under $2 million budgeted for heavy equipment replacement this year. We have what we call a decision support tool. Sometimes it's referred to as a DST. It's an analytics model that helps us optimize the replacement cycle so that we're minimizing the total cost of ownership over the life of an asset while balancing out minimizing the amount of downtime that's acceptable to the operating groups. So according to our DST right now, there's 10 pieces of equipment that are up for replacement. These have hit or exceeded their 12-year replacement cycle. There's a variety of dump trucks that are going to be used for parks forestry as well as our street maintenance crews. Again, a couple of aerial bucket trucks that are shown as Freightliners on here, wood chippers and things for our forestry group. We also have an asset replacement scorecard where we look at the conditions of each individual asset before making a final replacement decision. So if over the course of the next few months when we start to make the replacements, if another asset ends up scoring lower on that asset replacement scorecard, we may change the mix a little bit in terms of what we replace. But at the end of the day, really, this is about helping us stay on track with optimizing our fleet replacement cycles. And then we have a second line item that's also fleet related, and it's smaller. It's about $220,000 this year for snow removal equipment. We have 4 salt spreaders and 9 snow plows that are up for replacement. These are obviously critical to our winter storm response every year. So again, this is funded by general obligation bonds, and we have a bonding resolution as part of the recommended action, and we'd recommend initiating the project at this time. That concludes the presentation.
All right. Any questions for staff? Discussion on the item? If there's none, then I will go ahead and make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the projects, adopt the bonding resolutions, and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Members cast the votes as we test the signal strength of Councilmember Bluebog on his cell phone.
Aye.
With a result of 6 yeas, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2021 Property and Evidence Fire Suppression.
This is one more renewal and replacement item. This one is out of our public facilities group. We have, Wichita Police Department, I should say, has property and evidence associated with their cases that are stored over at the Rounds and Porter facility. Those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a building that's immediately west of City Hall here. Right now, they have a variety of fire extinguisher cabinets throughout the facility that they're counting on in order to fight any or to suppress any fires. Obviously, that's not in keeping with normal commercial and industrial standards. So there's a project that we have budgeted for 2021, $1.25 million that would enable us to install a variety of or either a wet fire suppression system in some areas where you can use water to fight any fires, and in areas where we need to for safekeeping of the evidence, we also have dry fire suppression systems. They usually rely on a mix of sodium bicarbonate or monoammonium phosphate in order to fight different classes of fire, and it's a dry powder that gets deployed or instead of water. So what this would do would enable us to build either fire or wet fire suppression throughout the property and evidence facility, thereby protecting the people who are in the building as well as doing so in a way that safeguards all of the evidence that's over there. This is general obligation bonds, again budgeted in 2021 for the CIP, and we'd recommend initiation at this time.
Questions for staff? See none. Discussion? See none. Sorry, I saw a council member move towards their button. With that, I will this is in District 6, so we will recognize the council member of District 6, Councilmember Claycomb.
Thank you, Mayor. Even though the facility is located in District 6, it's really a citywide function. But I move that City Council approve the project, adopt the bonding resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures.
I will second.
There's no discussion. Clerk will open the roll. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
With a result of 6-0, the motion does pass.
For the last time, Ben Nelson, oh, sorry, I got ahead of you.
Fleet Management Information System.
Now Ben Nelson, Public Works Utilities for the record. This item is not renewal and replacement. This is an operating piece of equipment or an operating software that we use in our fleet division. I wanted to give you an overview of our fleet division. We maintain, repair, purchase, and dispose of more than 2,500 assets that are in use by every department other than the transportation department and airport. So this is anything from all of our fire trucks to our police vehicles to the trip cars that people use out of City Hall, dump trucks, obviously, snow response. All of the vehicles that the utilities use are all centralized under our fleet division. We have 5 different equipment shops down there with roughly 45 mechanics and storekeeper personnel who get the parts and maintain and repair everything. We also have a fueling system that comprises 22 sites, has unleaded and diesel that can be used by city vehicles and equipment throughout the city at whatever different locations like police patrol stations, our maintenance facilities, and so forth. In order to use a internal service fund model, the fleet fund also has administrative staff who process monthly bills that get charged out to individual departments that help us to recover the maintenance and repair costs. It also amortizes replacement costs of some of our assets over the life of a vehicle. And then we have fuel surcharge, a fuel pass-through charge that we administer as well. In order to do all of this, we have to have work orders where we're able to track parts used, have to have a parts inventory, we have to have a billing interface that kind of dovetails into our accounting system. And so we've been using a software called Infor, which is a kind of a generalized type of asset management work order system. It's been in place since about 2003, so it's coming up on 18 years old now. It is no longer supported by the vendor. The version that we're on is no longer in use by anybody else. So if this thing crashes at some point, we don't have the ability to use work orders or parts inventory, those kinds of things anymore. So we need to get a new system as a replacement. Certainly it's at its life cycle. So here a while back, we issued a request for proposals to get a fleet management information system, FMIS as it's abbreviated in the agenda report and the presentation. Staff Screening Selection Committee shortlisted down to 2 software providers and have recommended that the city proceed with Faster. And at this time, for kind of a brief overview of why the committee selected Faster, I'd like to introduce Megan Stewart. She's our interim fleet division manager, to speak to how we think the fleet division would benefit from this.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Megan Stewart. Faster has several benefits that we're very excited about. There's going to be improved asset management with replacement planning tools, customer engagement through a self-service portal, better integration with other city systems, potential savings through several different tracking tools, and this will allow for better benchmarking since Faster is common among the public sector. So we're very excited. Thank you.
It will make things faster very soon.
Faster is almost always better. So yeah, I'm excited about this system too. I think it's going to give us some additional functionality that we don't currently have, in particular the self-service scheduling. Right now, departments, when they need to get their vehicle some sort of preventative maintenance, oil change, filter changes or whatnot, they sometimes bring a vehicle in and it'll sit for several hours before anybody sees it, and then they don't get notified until the next day that it's available to pick up. So one of the things we're trying to do is reduce the amount of downtime where operating departments don't have their equipment. This allows them to better schedule based on their needs and then get immediate notification to pick up. And I think this dovetails very nicely with our analytics, the DST system that we use for replacement planning, and will integrate with our new Munis accounting system. So this should be a good option going forward. And the even better news is that it also costs less than our current solution. So we got a quote after some negotiation to get the quote down from Infor in order to upgrade and get support again. This system, which we think will be better for our fleet operations and our customers, should cost about $110,000 less over the next 5 years than if we kept with our current solution. So we're recommending approval today of a contract with Faster in order to implement the new system. We also have a budget adjustment that's recommended. The reason why is that we have enough funds within the fleet fund operating budget, but we need to move some funding around between line items. There's no impact to the bottom line, just allows us to move money in order to pay for the implementation and the ongoing maintenance costs. So with that, we recommend approval of the recommended action, and I can stand for questions.
Are there any questions of staff? Is there any public comment who would like to come forward and speak to us? See none. Discussion from the bench? See none. With that, I will make the motion to take staff's recommended action to approve the contract with Faster, approve the budget adjustments, and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their vote. Councilmember Bluebog.
Aye.
Votes aye. With a 6 ayes to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Ben.
Neighborhood improvements funding.
Welcome back.
Good morning, Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The first of 3 items I have for you this morning is neighborhood improvements funding. I wanted to talk real quick about what this funding source has generally been used for in the past and how it's kind of evolved over the last several years. Staff prepares petitions for public infrastructure improvements in infill areas when requested. Excuse me. The cost of the improvements are then special assessed to an improvement district generally established by state statute, and at times additional improvements may be needed outside of but adjacent to that benefit district or the project limits, but that work should not be the responsibility of the improvement district itself. So that's kind of where this started. That would usually include items like intersections and drainage enhancements that need to be made at the same time, but serves a bigger area. We started then looking over time at other neighborhood improvement studies or projects not associated with the special assessment project that could also be done with this funding, and that's evolved more over the last few years to where we're at now. An example of standalone projects that might be funded by this source would be corridor safety improvements, concept designs in support of unforeseen arterial improvements, or drainage issues where other funding is not currently available. The cost is supported by city at large general obligation bond funding, as the added improvements benefit a larger area as a whole. We have some areas that we're recommending 2021 funds be used. Over the last several years, we made improvements to Waco from Douglas to Central, primarily to convert that to 3 lanes with on-street bike lanes. Our focus was pedestrian enhancements and safety between vehicles and pedestrians. We did not have funding at the time to make improvements to the southeast corner of Central and Waco. It's a real tricky area for pedestrians and bicyclists to maneuver that area. There's some existing concrete that was there when there was formerly a business on that lot, and it's really a hazard that we need to deal with, so we'd like to use this funding for that. We are currently converting Emporia from just north of Kellogg to Central to 2-way. The funding was capped for that project, and there's some additional ADA enhancements we really need to make, so this would be a good resource and use for the same funding. Within the last month, the City Council approved a design concept for improvements to McLean from Central to 13th Street. We would propose to utilize some of this funding for the restriping to convert that from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. And then finally, in the area of 29th Street North in Ohio, west of 135, we have seen significant growth in the commercial and industrial businesses in that area. To the point that we've had to make some temporary improvements to the 29th and Ohio intersection to accommodate the additional truck traffic. By utilizing some of this funding to begin preliminary design, now we think this will give us a better chance to have an opportunity for possible state and federal funding yet this year for construction in the near future. The Adopted Capital Improvement Program includes $500,000, again funded by general obligation bonds. Individual projects will be set up by staff as needed to allocate that full budget. With that, staff recommends council approve the budget, adopt the resolution, authorize the necessary signatures, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions on the item? Seeing none, is there any comments from the public? See, now we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Any further discussion on the item? If there is none, then I will go ahead and make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the budget, adopt the resolutions, and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second from the Vice Mayor?
Second.
Vice Mayor is seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their votes. Councilmember Bluebog will chime in.
Aye.
The result is 6-0. The motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Agreement with Kansas Department of Transportation, Design Services Agreement, petition for improvements and funding for I-235 and K-42 interchange modifications.
Again, Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item before you is proposed improvements to K-42 at the I-235 interchange. Just kind of orient you where we're at. K-42 runs from kind of bottom left to upper right through this picture. To the left is Textron's facility. You can see Hoover Road running north-south right where that says K-42. And then just to the right of that, you'll see the Southwest Boulevard and I-235 interchange. The larger lake to the bottom left of the interchange is really where this project started and the focus came from. Jeff Lang Development has a considerable plan for redevelopment of that, but there was basically no access. There is some access from the south, but it's emergency only. So they came to the city and KDOT asking about providing access adjacent to the southbound 235 off-ramp. It's taken quite some time to work through some access control issues with KDOT. There's an old railroad corridor through there that we had to sort some things out, but finally got to a point, KDOT said they would allow that access, so we were able to move forward. There's several things that are going to happen here, and this project's really a good example of public-private partnership coming together to make several things happen at once. This shows the work that's going to be done. On the tallest part of that picture to the left is the 235 off-ramp. This would include improvements to that ramp itself for what's pretty considerable turning movements now going to Textron. It causes some traffic issues on the ramp now. We will be making signal modifications, which is the city's contribution to the funding. The bottom part of that is the entrance to the old Keeler Lake, the Brightwater Bay development. And then you can see along K-42 under the two 235 bridges, left turn lane improvements. So one of them will be for westbound to the development. The other, which will help a larger traffic volume, we assume, especially during Textron shift change in the PM peak hour for eastbound left turns to that northbound 235 ramp. Funding for the projects, I know there's a lot of information here, so I'll break this down for you briefly. Total project cost is $900,000. That includes $550,000 from the cost share agreement. The developer submitted a cost share application with the city of Wichita. And as partners in that, providing some local match, KDOT did award $550,000 to the project in July of 2020. The improvement district itself, for Lang's Development, submitted a petition for up to $250,000, and then the council previously approved $100,000 of annual traffic signal funding for our portion. That total project cost of $900,000 will be bonded by the city with reimbursement from KDOT as the project progresses and special assessment to the development after completion. And as I mentioned, on March 2nd, City Council approved traffic signal program, which will support our estimated $100,000 contribution to the project. With that, staff recommends City Council approve the agreements, petition, and budget, adopt the resolution, authorize necessary signatures. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff? Is there comments from the public? Now, bring discussion back to the bench. Is anybody on the bench who would like to discuss this item? If not, this does fall into District 4, and I want to give Councilmember Blubach an opportunity to make a motion.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate that, and I'd like to take staff's recommended vote action.
Motion has been made to accept staff's recommended action. I will second that. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Councilmember Blubach, feel free to vote. Don't forget to vote, Councilmember Blubach. Oh, the system just reset. Yikes.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
we got it in there. Whew, okay. The result is 6 yeas to 0 nays. The motion does pass. I thought the whole system just wound up resetting. Glad it didn't. So we're almost through. Madam Clerk.
2020 pedestrian crossing enhancements.
Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The last item I have for you today is the 2020 pedestrian crossing enhancements. This is a relatively new item to the capital improvement program, working closely with our transit/transportation department, all of our staff that works on multimodal facilities, especially bike and pedestrian, in an effort to provide more focus to specific areas, particularly for pedestrian crossings. Projects within this funding category will be prioritized based on feedback from the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board, from citizens, along with staff recommendations, and working closely with the City Council. Types of improvements funded by this will include pedestrian signals, median refuge, which we've talked before about, allows safer crossing of half a street at a time, and enhancements to existing crosswalks. Based on working with the Bike Ped Advisory Board, information staff has taken in over time, projects funded for design and hopefully some implementation will include 9th and McLean and Southeast Boulevard and Wassell. So I mentioned in a previous item with the neighborhood improvement funds, there's funding included to convert McLean from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. Again, this is a project that council approved in the last month. A second part of that, where the star is shown, is to provide a pedestrian crossing of McLean. That's specifically where this funding would be used. So between the two, I think we're going to be able to fully fund improvements for that project. The second place we looked at is Southeast Boulevard and Wassell. There's a lot going on down here. If you're not familiar with this area, starting at the right side of the screen, you can see the existing bridge over 135 towards the south end of the city. That continues with sidewalk into that neighborhood. Coming from the west along south side of Wassell, there's sidewalk that runs out at some point west of Madison. This has been brought to our attention numerous times over a fair amount of years now as a priority on the priority list for the Bike Ped Advisory Board to try to provide some level of safe crossing here. It's going to be a challenge with the railroad through here, with different directions of traffic, primarily with this funding. We hope to develop concept design and cost estimates to move forward in the future. We have a large sewer project going through this area that should be underway under construction this summer. So we're going to make sure we coordinate with that, and any improvements we can make with putting pavement back would only benefit this project going forward. This mentions that the former 2019-2028 CIP includes funding for $300,000 in 2020. That was moved forward into the current CIP. We are recommending initiation of that funding at this time. Staff recommends City Council approve the budget, adopt the resolution, authorizing necessary signatures, and I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Other questions of staff? Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. Great presentation. Thank you. We're going to focus on these 2 projects, and it says any remaining funds will be used on other priority crossings. Do we have an idea? Are those also prioritized by the Bike Ped Advisory Board? Or
That's the first place that we would start. It's going to depend on the funding that is available. In working with the Bike Ped Advisory Board over the last several months, we've talked about several possibilities, but it's going to really depend on what's left, because we can gain more in certain areas than we can others. And I know that's somewhat of a vague answer, but it would be based on their priorities primarily.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Yes, we'll go out to the public for comment. Mr. Crane.
question. For you guys and also Gary, on the crossings and everything, the blind community would like to see more push buttons and on the traffic lights to make it a lot easier to cross. And even in downtown Wichita here. I was, a couple of years ago, I was hit and run over by a car in downtown Wichita. And luckily I'm still here today, but it would be nice to have a push button traffic light. And I'm hoping that you guys approve this and make it very, very good. Thank you.
Councilmember Claycomb.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, for your comments. Gary, I have a quick question. This item and the earlier item in terms of McLean, this is, we'll get the redesign to 3-lane of McLean and the pedestrian crossing. This does not include a median at this time, right?
It does where the signal crossing is.
Okay.
Yes, and I should have been more clear, where that star was shown north of 9th Street. We plan to, with installation of a pedestrian signal, include building a median there, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? See none. With that, I'll go ahead and make the motion and take staff's recommended action to approve the budget, adopt the resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote while Councilmember Bluebock gets his phone off mute and gives us his vote.
Aye.
With the result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
Councilmember Frye.
Thank you. I have appointments for my district advisory board, and I have sent this information to the clerk, so she has it. I would like to point out that I have 3 outgoing members. I would appreciate their service: Nancy Dooling, Troy Palmer, and Alyssa Unruh. My appointments going forward are Lamont Anderson, Angela Breer, Wendy Carter, Dennis Clary, Jose Gutierrez, J.V. Johnston, Jill Kirshen, Trevor Kurth, Ramon Rodriguez, Trey Rios, and Rachel Thomas Murphy.
Are there any other appointments so we can just knock those out of the way? Johnson, did you?
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to reappoint for my District 1 Advisory Board Joseph Tex Dozier, Michaela Pack, Jamie Jackson Howell, Danielle Johnson, no relation, Seth Windsor, Katie Brozek, LaWanda DeShazier, and Tadana Neal.
Are there any other appointments to boards we could do this kind of in one? Seeing none, with that, I'll make a motion to accept the appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the votes. Councilmember Bluebock.
Aye.
Result of 6 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Back on announcements. All right, there's no announcements. I have a quick one. Oh, Councilmember Johnson, go for it.
I was still thinking.
You get the floor.
I was going to say it earlier, but I've said a lot today. But just congratulations to District 3 on having a new council member. Looking forward to working with the council member on a few things. We had a good joint breakfast when they didn't have a council member about the census and places for people. So looking forward to trying to work together some more in that sense. And congrats again to the district.
Yes, as the only member up here who is a member of District 3, I am glad to have someone to complain about, or to complain to, when my streets aren't swept or when there's potholes, and look forward to making you come over and trim the tree limbs and all the other stuff that I imagine council members do. With that, I'll make a quick announcement because our friends over at the county Commission. They just had a meeting. I'm not up to date on the details with that, but they, from a release yesterday, I believe are going to start to widen the group of folks who are able to make an appointment through the county health office to get their vaccine. From what was reported yesterday, I believe they're going into phase 3, which is folks with underlying medical conditions, and also phase 4. Of course, phase 2 seems a little confusing. I think the best way to describe phase 2 is folks who work alongside other people and can't social distance. These are folks who are in the service industry, people who wait tables, people who bartend count as well in that industry. Pretty much the goal and the strategy, I think, is to stop the spread with phase 2. So if you fall into phase 2, please read it carefully. I think there's a lot of confusion on if people really do fall into that category or not. My advice has been to try to make an appointment. They will ask questions that will pretty much weed out folks who don't qualify, and then they will ask you to bring documentation. And if the documentation they ask you to bring is something you can't produce, then it's probably not your turn. But again, it was reported, unless it changed, which it could have, because that's how things work around here, and it's COVID. If it hasn't changed, then I think it's Monday, the 22nd, is when they will start on phase 3, which will also combine some folks in phase 2. The goal is to continue our downtrend in community spread, which last I checked was under 3%. And from our hospital call, we are learning that the vaccines seem to be working, as those who are targeted age-wise for the vaccines, those over 60 are now, for one of the, well, I think the second report that we've gotten, not the majority of folks who are taken up, who are in any hospital beds, which is the first time, I think, since this started. Usually that group of folks represent over half of those in the hospital, and now they're not, which correlates with the idea that the vaccines are working. So with that, please go to the Central County webpage, and schedule an appointment. Also, pharmacies are offering jabs as well, so please feel free to get one that way. Our goal is to get everything, or everyone, as back to normal as possible, by keeping everyone healthy, utilizing a vaccine strategy. If there is no further comments, then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Which would be seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Councilmember Bluebog, where are you on adjournment?
Aye.
Councilmember Bluebog is an aye on adjournment, which means with the result of 6-0, we are adjourned. Thank you all.